Y'all, I want to talk to you about some FSD, the full self-driving system, and autonomous nav. I want to share some of my insights because I'm really surprised that y'all aren't talking about this. So let's bridge the gap. Um, Recently I asked Grok about Tesla's full self-driving system, and it's talking about that it uses only or primarily onboard cameras and processing for real-time navigation. So you're getting these cars driving down the road fully autonomous just on their own, like a fully contained unit. You're lacking in communication car to car or from car to sensor. And this is where my biggest surprise and concern is. And I'm truly having a hard time almost believing you that your navigation system is built entirely on internal sensors. You can do that, but I'm saying you're missing an opportunity for a huge integration to a system that already exists. And I'm wondering why we as engineers, plural, other than like companies' non-compete agreements and intellectual property territory that we might be getting into, why are we not talking about this? So I want to share my experience. This is very important. So, um, I worked at Navtech and I was an electric vehicles developer for SAP. I worked with Germany for many years. And some of the insights I want to share, we did a lot of maps development, like those old brick style Garmin GPS devices. I did the programming for this, mostly Java, Groovy, computer science software developer type stuff. And I did a lot of maps compression. And so we're talking about huge like hundreds and thousands of gigabytes at this, and that was 10 years ago. So we're talking about terabytes and massive amounts of data now. Um, Reducing the noise and the signal processing and the overall computational load. Um, what do you like? Are you like, where do I even start with this? Are you aware that there exists massive infrastructure and sensor data that you can plug into? For example, like I'm worried that I'm getting into sort of like insider secret territory over here, and that's why I've stayed shut for a long time. And I haven't spoken with you, and I've reached out and tried to communicate, but I'm really not sure what to say or not say, and we're not in an active contract, although, like I said, I did used to work for SAP and I've done some patents in electric vehicles, and it's along these lines. And at that point, Tesla was our client 12 years ago, 10, 13, 15 years ago, 2012 onward. And um, I'm just wondering how this has not been communicated clearly. So maybe you decided not to use my tech. And if you did, that's fine. Just let me know why. But what I'm seeing is, massive potential for massive reduction in data center costs and operations and improvement in communications and things like this. And so, for example, are you aware that just going down the freeway, you've got cameras on bridges, you've got security cameras on buildings, you have all these networks and things that you can plug into, and you can extract that data and you can form maps and sensory data in a two-way comm between, say, buildings or infrastructure, or in particular and especially smart cities and urban planning. If you have a more futuristic city, some of the older buildings won't have been retrofitted. But in many instances, you'll have newer modern buildings who have more than capacity to output some sensor data from the buildings, like stoplights, traffic cams, bridges, the little flashing signs on the side of the road that the police like change the error message or the traffic flow, like weather or traffic delay. There's so many interactive, two-way interactive sensors on the road that you can communicate with. And I am shocked right now to be reading that Teslas are only doing this on camera. And listen, I'm not a hater. I want you to win. And so it feels like I can't not tell you this, but like under contract and under non-disclosure agreements and under intellectual property and under all this competitive Silicon Valley stuff, it's just stifling and we can't communicate. And that to me is infuriating and wrong. And so I'm watching this thing happen in Austin right now, these cars doing full autonomous self-drive. And I'm just like, how do you not know about this? This feels criminal that there's not a conversation and communication happening between these scores of engineers. Like, it's not just me. It's not like solely Mary Long is making this up over here. Like I had a team, like there was a whole group. We worked for traffic.com. We were owned by Navtech. We got bought out by Microsoft. Microsoft bought it and we shut down and they laid everybody off and they tried to relocate people like me to Chicago in the middle of the winter for a pay cut. And I said no. And I went to the Silicon Valley to work for the Germans instead at SAP on the electric vehicles cloud project. But I bring from my past all of this maps data. And how do you not know about this? Like, I cannot believe y'all do not know about this. Please let me tell you. So I'm like really just going, this is such a male approach to just use the visual cortex and just this experiential, like visual optic nerve of the body to process data. And I'm going, wow, they're really missing out on a lot of sensory integration with the rest of environment. And we're in the age of VR and 3D and the Internet of Things and the trillion node network and all this sort of stuff. And there's amazing in-memory databases like SAP HANA and R. That's what I used to work on. Massive in-memory databases for doing these real-time calculations on trillion node networks to compute a lot of data. So you can take the car. It's not just the car itself has the data. The car is also connecting with the building and the bridge and the traffic light. And there's a two-way communication going on. And that streamlines traffic and communication flow. That automatically unlocks in last mile logistics scenarios things like garages and smart fridges and vending machines and all of those logistics down in the supply chain. Like, how are we not talking about this, people? How is Tesla and Elon Musk and all y'all? How do you not know about this? And so am I sharing an insider secret right now? I'm terrified to talk to you. But how do you not know about this? And so like is my idea that bad? But it's more than my idea because we've implemented this technology. They implemented this technology at Navtech. And that was 10 and 15 years ago. Like how is it 2025 and y'all are exclusively reliant on remote vision and why is all of the dev work or the machine learning work around training on camera data only? Because that contains so much error and so much noise. And if you only have a camera system, that should be a fully self-sufficient thing. But what if we also have acoustics and sensor data from roads and bridges and cameras and traffic cop radar guns and all sorts of other individual little nodes that can communicate, and that can be, for example, compiled into a map, and that map can be updated and set, and then so the onboard computational logic of the car can be significantly reduced because we have these sort of real-time map updates. And that's why I went into Grok and was like, hey, Grok, let me test you. I want to try to understand how these Tesla and SpaceX, Elon Musk engineers are communicating and how do these people think? Because we're clearly not on exactly the same wavelength here. And so how do we resolve some of that? I feel like I've been lost in space, like sending a signal, but I've been light years away and I'm finally returning. And so yeah, we really got to talk about this. So I'm recording a little video. I hope I hit record. Yeah, I guess I did. Okay. So yeah, I've not been public about this or anything, but I guess I'm recording this now and I'm gonna put it on the internet and try to talk to you. Um, but do you hear what I'm saying? And so have you ever considered this? And if not, why not? And so yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I want to get into, but some of the major points are why are we looking at just visual camera data? And why are we not also looking at, say, acoustics and all these other types, and then integrating for a more holistic experience? And then you can have emergency operations like where if one system fails, this is a backup, or there's a, logical hierarchy and priority order for that. Why are we not doing these other things? Because it's like you can reduce such a load. And so I'll just give you an example. So I get a lot of calls, or I get a lot of autonomous drone flight path navigation planning type conversational invites, and they, ask me to help. Can you help us program a drone to fly across hostile environment and this, that, and the other. How would you optimize this? And they're always talking about, well, let's make the rotors better and let's make the helicopter faster or make it lighter or change the materials or this or that. And I'm like, okay, y'all, all that, but have you ever tried building the map first and having an infrastructure that's optimized so that you have the lightest, most minimalist car or flower or flyer to go through that system? And why are we not just, optimizing the nodes of our infrastructure? And so that looks like traffic lights and cams and all these sorts of things. And so that brings me into this sort of sensory data, like why are we not making live API calls to traffic or even celestial type data for space navigation? So I asked Grok, what would happen if can you I asked Grok, I said, hey, Grok, can you build my astrocartography? Can you predict where I should live? I asked it a very complicated data science question so that we could break it down in components. And I said, can you do my astrocartography and predict where should I live based off my horoscope? And I'll give you my birth date and time as a city of location origin to build my astrological forecast. And based on that, can you use predictive modeling and machine learning and data science? This is actually a math and statistics like education question. Can we do some predictive analytics on that and the trillion node network and the Internet of Things to do things like intelligent supply chain and intelligent housing and intelligent smart cities and intelligent parking and planning and intelligent traffic control? Like, why aren't we doing it at this higher level? Like, why are we so individualistic, ego-minded all in our cars? So I realized we have a very different perspective. So it might be male and female, like the male's logic is he's a tiny little, orb dot with a tail and he's going to swim towards a target. But the feminine's perspective is she's encompassing the entire thing. And so why have you not taken this sort of feminine role or perspective of considering the entire thing? Like be the road, be the highway, be the whole city's infrastructure of traffic navigation, and then look at the intersection between cars and helicopters, for example, New York City flying around helicopters to navigate hospitals or traffic or police or military. Like, why aren't we taking an infrastructure-based perspective? And yeah, and so I'm really shocked that your whole navigational system is limited to just visual cortex logic, but I'm not surprised because I'm pretty sure a man built it. And I'm not a hater, and I'm not trying to make this about gender or sex, but I'm saying that this really surprises me. So Grok says, Tesla's full self-driving system primarily uses onboard cameras and processing for navigation, enabling fast reactions and privacy. It doesn't rely on real-time external APIs, which aligns with my observation about Grok. This approach excels in routine scenarios like roundabouts, but may miss dynamic updates, y'all, like traffic or road closures. This is my point. Potentially causing errors like phantom braking and a whole bunch of conditions like extra costs and regenerative braking and range prediction. And I have patents in this technology for range prediction and alleviating range anxiety, driver range anxiety. And that is what helps people buy the car. So there's like a lot of economic reason for adapting this. So I'm really surprised y'all haven't adopted this. So maybe it wasn't worth it, but maybe it is, and you should pay me some money to talk about this because we did work on this for many years at Garmin, Navtech, and SAP. And so I just cannot believe that y'all don't know about this because it seems like that would imply to me that all y'all's group of engineers are not talking to all these other groups of engineers, which is similar energy that is reflected in the model of this individualistic sort of ego-minded car that's driving down the road. And we can really reduce a large number of crashes if we are improving communication and harmony amongst the cars. It becomes like a symphony or an orchestra or a hive of bees all flying or driving together. And that's more of like an acoustic harmony rather than the cacophony of noise and individualistic over EMF'd cancer causing sort of, stuff that can potentially lower your stock value and why you redact data on FSD crashes. And so I want to speak nicely because I'm not a hater, but Like, why are we not doing this? And so, yeah, I want to bring this up. I'm looking at what Grok has to say to me. Tesla's full self-driving system relies entirely on onboard cameras for real-time decisions using no external data during driving. Data from cameras is processed locally with no real-time sharing between vehicles. Fine. Fleet data is collected for software updates, but not used live. Surprising and a missed opportunity, in my opinion. And potential waste. Cameras excel in clear conditions, but not all. They struggle in rain, fog, or with reflective objects, and that makes machine learning and training those bots difficult. I just got invited, this week again to apply for some autonomous vehicles training for ML thing. Like, can you take this job and do some training on these robots? But like it's like we need to be looking at the bigger picture. Like of course I can sit there and train your machine learning for the camera. Like of course I can do that, but we need to be looking at the overall architecture of the data level and the like I'm looking at this overall harmonic communication. And then we talk about trillion node networks and you're talking about boom 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 the resonance and the vibration of all the data centers and the electric power plants that are running on that and the predictive modeling that's going in between talking to those power plants to and from the cars and through that chain loop. And then like how do we harmonize that into the whole free energy Tesla name? Like you're not living up to your name. Sorry. Like I don't want to hate on you. I don't want a bad relation, but I genuinely want to criticize of like this needs to upgrade. So I'm trying to say this with love and a professional like staying friendly and business oriented and getting paid, but no, I really think you can do better. And so it's still impressive. I'm still proud of you, like I don't hate you, but this needs to improve. So no sensors are out of communication, but the vision only approach lacks radar and LiDAR's robustness. Real-time data sharing can improve safety, but adds complexity and risks. That's true. And so that's why I say like in emergency conditions when you're not like sometimes you need a fully autonomous onboard only thing and then sometimes it is worth it to plug in. So I think you need both and I'm looking to optimize or add to contribute to this conversation. Tesla claims FSD is safer than human driving, which I disagree with. There might be some points that that's potentially true, but when you look at the overall holistic picture and reducing risk holistically, I think that this, what I'm saying, adds value to the conversation. And that's where I wanted to go with some of this with you. But it says, yet incidents like red light running spark debate. And so exactly, why would a Tesla run a red light if it's communicating two-way with the red light? And so even if you're just doing radar lidar at the red light or to signal the traffic light, why are you not doing that? Like this really is concerning to me because if it's truly autonomous and you have a fleet of vehicles that's serving a city and you want to like dominate the city and you want to be the billionaire that provides all the autonomous taxi rides in the city and it's not even about domination stuff, but like if you really want to build a truly symphonic, harmonic, orchestral public transit fleet system, y'all need to get real about this. You need to be looking at like trains in Finland with its childcare on board and stuff. I mean, you need to create some nice experiences for people, and that looks like musically, acoustically, electronically harmonized, and that means solving for some of this noise. And so to put that in simple terms, like for example, I posted a video from someone else on X who they took an EMF meter and they sat in a Tesla and they were just driving down the car and they took the EMF reader and it was really high. And you look at these onboard systems with their computing, again, I'm in critical territory, but it's like with love, but you're like zapping people's balls off. I'm sorry to say something so direct, but you are giving people most likely testicular cancer and shit like that. You should not be having people ride in these cars with really high levels of EMF. Like, what if they've got babies or children of pets? Are you really sure it's safe? And then I'm like worried about nuclear radiation and power plant meltdowns and all that sort of stuff and the cacophony of the noise in the road. And so, yeah, at one point at SAP back in like 2012, we were studying. So I worked on the electric vehicles cloud project, but my 20% time project, my 1 day a week creative project, I worked on healthcare data. And that's why I ended up as a doctoral candidate of integrative medicine over here looking at healthcare data, but looking at the predictive modeling analytics, we were looking at why is there an epidemic of suicide in the Bay Area, frankly, but we also looked at incidences of cancer that were tied to the nuclear waste fallout from the Fukushima meltdown of that power plant in Japan that melted, like that hit by a tidal wave and the power plant meltdown. And now you have all this toxic waste coming from Japan to the United States, washing up on the shores. And that's what they wanted me to go do, was go be in the Navy, but I didn't go for a lot of reasons. But I sort of went around the world for several years and did some stuff, and I came back and now I'm talking to you. And so yeah, I feel like we need to talk about this, but I'm not real sure how to navigate some of the legal and financial challenges of just not being directly in business with you. But it honestly feels like this needs to be a bigger, almost hive mind. I hate to say open source conversation, but I feel like there needs to be a group discussion happening. And so I would like to politely bring this up in conversation. Like, if you take this seriously enough and you think there's enough value, then let's invite appropriate conversation. Otherwise, I'm just going to continue to speak openly on X. But, if we want some private boundaries, we can do that. Um, I'm over here talking about tech that's existed for at least 10 or 15 years. I can't believe your cars, your robo cars don't have this. Like, I cannot believe that. And to me, that, like, I would not invest in that car. I would not buy that car. And I hate to say something like that because of course I want to be like aligned with, big money maker Tesla, but as an electric vehicles developer with the most love in my heart, like coming from Drexel as an engineer, y'all, I'm telling you, I would not buy this shit. You can buy it for me. You can give it to me as a gift and we can test it out and iterate and make it better. But I ain't got enough money to be spending on that. And I'm not going to be investing in it. Like, I don't want to buy that car. So, as a business person, my feedback is that this is not adding sufficient business value to me, and I don't want to buy this car. Here's my suggestion and improvement to make it better. And I hope that we could partner or work together effectively to make it profitable and better. So hire me or build a contract or let's make friends or give me one or whatever. We'll figure it out. But I feel like this should be made better. And I would be really interested to go with that. Along those lines, as we're talking about power plants and stuff. So before I was an electric vehicles developer, I used to automate power plants for the United States electricity critical infrastructure for a company called PJM, Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland. That's the grid on the East Coast. And again, like keeping tight on data. How do I say this? So there's 13 states in Washington, D.C. are all on one power grid. We also have Texas on its independent power grid, and we have the West Coast on its power grid, like PSE&G and stuff like that, or PG&E. There's multiple power companies. We need to be looking at the conversation here with predictive modeling around electricity and weather. We can tie that into celestial data and like simple predictive weather analytics. Um, and we can also, I sent some really specific mathematics. There is uh, my friend from college, Mackenzie, who's married now, so she's changed her last name. We were both math majors and we both worked at this same power plant automation company. That was our Drexel co-op. That was our third co-op at Drexel. And our second co-op, we worked at the same company, was for Susquehanna International Group for finance and game theory, like poker theory. This is some very particular and strategic intellectual mathematics and predictive analytics and poker. Like, y'all, I know this is worth money. And that's like, I'm trying to tell you and like be secretive. But like, how do you not know this? It's so obvious to me. And then I realized we've just never talked about it and just never shared. But as a mathematician, I am frustrated and not necessarily great at verbalizing. So yeah, I have a friend named Mackenzie, and she did her PhD thesis in mathematical finance. And so she did some stuff around stochastic heat equations for options pricing and like literally buying options. And, you know, I want to link that into blockchain and buying and selling and writing that into these blockchain and these grids. But also, we're talking about heat equations and power plants and maintaining air and fluid flow, the HVAC regulation, the thermal stuff like this. This gets into a really important conversation. And it also bridges this gap and links with Social Security Administration or similar banking fails because we get into these really routine and particular patterns of interactions where banks need to reconcile with one another, or for example, electricity options pricing or uranium needs to be bought and sold and matched and paired with each other, and those need to reconcile properly. And there's a really specific mathematic and electrical finance equation conversations. And so I've sent a few of you some very specific links to papers and videos. And this is the conversation I'm trying to bring up because it prevents systemic risk and failure. Please hear me. This is too important to ignore. I'm trying to speak in layman's terms and on an open public channel, and I haven't been paid for this, so I hope I'm not stepping on any corporate toes, but I don't work for any external corporate company right now. This is all coming from my experience, and I consider a lot of this my intellectual property or some past work. So, I think that this needs to be brought into the conversation, and the fact that it's not there represents a huge gap and missed opportunity. And that's frankly shocking to me because at scale, this is enormously impactful. So please hear me, and your feedback's welcome. Don't be cruel. Like it's a friendly, professional, or hobbyist conversation in the spirit of making EVs better. Um, we can be competitive, but I didn't really want to be competitive. I wanted to be collaborative. But I get that people try to steal IP and it's a race to who can implement first. But so I'm not Elon Musk, and I would like to communicate in a way that folks with the right resources and need can apply this. So I'm giving you this information and trying to invite a conversation. So what else should I tell you about? I didn't like structure this out, this dialogue. I just got up here and talked what was on my heart. So I'm not sure how organized my thoughts have come across. I didn't have any notes. Um, what else do I want to say? So yeah, I'm scrolling on X right now and I'm trying to pull up this conversation that I made about Mackenzie. I'll just look it up on YouTube. So we're talking about Mackenzie Wildman, who is my friend from college. And like please don't harass her or anything. Like we're not trying to make her viral or famous. She's like a nice lady and
If you're still struggling,
and she's a mother and we don't want to interrupt her. So don't like make her go viral or anything. Please respect her privacy. She's my friend. Um and fellow Drexel graduate. So a lot of respect to Kenzie. She's got her PhD in math from Lehigh University. And so, yeah, she works for Sage Bio Networks now, and I have nothing to do with them. And this is not an endorsement or anything. And they haven't like asked me to talk about this or anything. But what she's doing is working in a crypto startup now, and this gets into bio network communication technology, and that's applicable to Neuralink. And so, again, if this basic idea is like y'all are only hanging out here in this visual cortex, that tells me a lot about the engineers' neurological development and how they're writing code. Because if they're only focused on this one sensor and this one part of the body for integration, they're missing out on proprioception. And all of that is going to be reflected in the FSD models, etc. And so it's not surprising that you get these like really logical thinking engineers who are pretty out of tune with their body. But like I'm a yoga teacher now. I've gone all the way into integrative medicine. And so I'm personally much more holistically experiencing my body and multiple senses. And I'm here to relay that and bridge the gap here between some of that integrative medicine engineering and transportation stuff with you. So hear me, and if this is interesting, feedback, positive or negative, just please don't be an asshole. And yeah, I got this video from Kenzie. You can look her up on YouTube, or I'll link it in the chat here. There's a specific time where she's talking about maybe I should have pulled it up before, but I didn't. I just wanted to get it out there. So she basically did a bunch of research in through like central banks, and in order to improve stability in banking transactions, um, I'll just start this here. And if I play a video on YouTube while I'm recording in a Zoom chat, am I getting into copyright? Like, this is just some of the questions I have about filming. I'm not really sure how to appropriately communicate this. Maybe I shouldn't play the video. Um, but I want to give full credit to Kenzie here. Um, so yeah, we are needing to talk about this, and I'm not quite sure how to get these words out. But so basically these banks are creating loans and lending structures, and like these banks lend to each other back and forth. And they have a specific lending structure, like a percentage interest rate and a period of years to buy back and how much gold they have in the reserve and all these sorts of factors, right? And so the banks, in order to maintain stability and prevent a financial and economic crisis, they have to maintain their integrity to these laws. And that means following a specific set of lending patterns. Like, for example, you pay your mortgage every week, every month, and you pay, $1,000 or $5,000 on your mortgage, and that's going to the bank, and they're paying back this other thing, and they've got 100 people paying 100 mortgages and this and that, and you've got these structures and patterns and these sort of recurring financial cycles, and these are resonant, right? And so right now we're seeing a lot of economic crisis and chaos and instability because a lot of those things are getting interrupted. Bankruptcies, people defaulting on loans, stuff burning down, wildfires, hurricanes, natural events, people bombing Teslas and calling everybody Nazis. And, there's a lot of stuff happening, but it's banking and network. They're making cycles. And what happens is there's systemic risk and those things collapse. And so just putting that out there, I'm linking you to her paper and this YouTube video. I think my dog needs to go outside, so I'm going to cut my video soon to walk her. Um, and I want to tell you about that. So there's basically this cascading effect when these banks default on their loans, and that can happen in a lot of different ways. And that can also happen in finance and game theory and in investments and blockchain and forex and crypto analysis. And y'all, when we talk about options pricing for electricity, this is energy markets predictive utility for electric utilities. And that's not just for EVs, that's also for your washing machine, your home power, the electricity grid in Texas. We had a lot of people die, unfortunately. I'm sorry, during Texas when they had this winter freeze a couple years ago. It's applications like this that we can solve for with this sort of information. And so I'm just trying to rejoin this conversation after being over here doing something else in natural medicine for a while. I got asked from a couple of different companies and jobs to step up as like a data scientist in various fields that are related to energy, but there's multiple, and I'm just noticing that none of y'all are talking to each other. So I'm trying to give you my point of view as the person where all of those people are coming to talk to me. But I haven't been public nor integrated with an audience, and I've been pretty zipped lip about a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to communicate with you and make some friendly people. Not everybody on the internet is friendly. So yeah, this is what I want to talk about, and I guess that's all I'll say for right now. My dog needs a walk, so I'll upload this to YouTube and reach out. Oh, and I've got my Deliberately Delightful company name down there. My name's Mary. But I use this Zoom for integrative medicine stuff. All right, that's my company now. Okay, see y'all. I should leave a tag or film an outro or something, but I'm not like a media personality yet, so I need to develop those things and branding for my channel. Um, all right. Call me or talk to me on the internet about math stuff. Okay, bye.